Here we go. Let's dive into Ecclesiastes chapter 1. You will probably want a Bible open in front of you for the rest of this class. So if you don't have one, raise your hand and I'll hand one out. Chapter 1, verse 1. The words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. The preacher in Hebrew is Koheleth, the one who assembles. This book is written in the persona of Solomon, who was in a unique position to tell us about finding personal fulfillment. He had outrageous wisdom, fabulous wealth, and ridiculous power. He had the admiration of his people and of all the surrounding nations. He had palaces and gardens, wives and concubines, singers and feasts. And what does he say? Verse 2, vanity of vanities. All is vanity. What's the definition of vanity? Vanity is devolved into a really shallow word in English, usually mean worrying too much about how you look. That's not what this is talking about at all. If you go back a little further to thinking Pilgrim's Progress and Vanity Fair, there you start to get something a little more like the older English word vanity, where it means literally meaningless, unimportant things. In Ecclesiastes here, the word used in Hebrew is hevel, which literally means Abel. It's the name Abel, as in Cain and Abel. And it turns out the story of Abel really gives us a key to help unlock the book of Ecclesiastes. The name Cain means possession, acquisition. The name Abel, Hevel, means meaningless, ephemeral, passing away. Consider that. They had names that meant pretty much the exact opposite. Cain was all about getting everything he could for himself, and Abel was gone like that. Abel's life seems meaningless. Mostly all we know about him is that he dies, pointlessly. The only thing we know about his short life is that he offered a sacrifice to God, which brought God pleasure. But isn't that exactly the point of human life? To bring some pleasure to God. That's where this book is going. But it begins in deep despair. I'm going to paraphrase, starting with verse 3 here. What use is it to do anything in life? The sun comes up, and the sun goes down, and hurries back around to do the same job over and over again, like Sisyphus pushing his rock up the hill every day. The wind blows to the south and the north and back again. The streams run to the sea, and the sea is never full. Why do they even try? Everything is full of weariness. A man cannot utter it. There is nothing new under the sun. Wow. Compare this for a moment with the Psalms, which praise God for the sun and the wind and the sea and his glory and all creation. The Psalms choose to thank God for his good gifts. Ecclesiastes is going to get there, but it begins with bitterness, despair, and this conviction of utter pointlessness. The fact that this is in the Bible tells us that this is a legitimate stage on the road to finding God. It's not a pleasant place to be. It's not where any of us want to stay. But Ecclesiastes meets us where we are, legitimizes it, and helps it move forward. For the rest of chapters 1 and 2, Solomon tells us how he put every earthly thing to the test, but rejected everything as ultimately meaningless. It's an interesting story. First, wisdom. I applied my mind to know wisdom, but I perceived this is also a striving after wind. For in much wisdom is much vexation, and he who increases knowledge increases sorrow. Hey, wait a minute. We just finished reading Proverbs. Proverbs tells us that wisdom is the key to a life well lived, the happy life. What happened? Ecclesiastes is going to have some positive things to say about wisdom later on. Oh, I'll just find it right now. A man's wisdom makes his face shine, and the hardness of his countenance is changed. I really like that. Wisdom makes a face shine. Shine with what? Shine with generosity, shine with joy, shine with the presence of God. And the hardness of his countenance is changed. Wisdom makes people gentle. How often do we meet people that that have both joy and knowledge and gentleness. It's a tough combination, but I like it as one to shoot for. All right.
What profits a man to all the things that he labors that he does or whatever? But one of my morning prayers is offer your daily labor to Christ as he did for the souls of those in purgatory. So it's like, well, praying for something that you think is worthless here.
Oh, no. We're going to get to where he talks about finding meaning in work. And offering up your work is an incredibly good way to find meaning in work. Obviously, this book predates the concept of that by quite a bit. But the idea of offering up your work to God as a sacrifice, offering it up for him to use as he will, offering it up for the souls in purgatory, that's a really, really good way to find meaning in work, which is a major theme in Ecclesiastes. All right, so wisdom is the way to a life well lived, way to a happy life. Oh, but in wisdom there is much vexation. Solomon points out that wisdom can give you greater sensitivity to what's wrong with the world, and greater frustration at being unable to fix it, especially, I suppose, if you're the king. He writes, what is crooked cannot be made straight, and what is lacking cannot be numbered. In other words, I'm the king, and even I can't fix everything, and even I can't give the people everything they want. So next, Solomon tries pleasure. I said to myself, come now, I will make a test of pleasure. Enjoy yourself. Solomon decides to indulge in wine, enough to make him happy while keeping his brain turned on. He builds palaces and gardens with pools and fruit trees. He acquires silver and gold and great treasures. He gets singers to entertain him, slaves to wait on him, and of course, lots and lots of concubines. He says, I became great and surpassed all who were before me, and also my wisdom remained with me. And whatever my eyes desired, I did not keep from them. His final conclusion? I considered all that my hands had done, and the toil that I had spent in doing it, and behold, all was vanity and a striving after wind, and there was nothing to be gained under the sun. In other words, being that successful is exhausting. Working that hard to keep oneself constantly entertained is exhausting. Nope, not worth it. Here's a tangent, but I think it's a fun one. Solomon lists off all his pleasures in 7 lines. Some interpreters take that as a symbol of the 7 days of creation. In 7 days, God created the heavens and the earth. In 7 years, Solomon created the temple, Israel's new Eden. God pronounces his creation very good. Solomon pronounces his creation vanity and a striving after the wind. One small positive takeaway here. Solomon does say his heart found pleasure in the toil. In other words, he discovered there is intrinsic satisfaction to a good job well done, like building the temple. It's just that at the time, he had too much on his plate. Next, Solomon looks to folly. He says, maybe I've just been thinking too hard about all this. The fool and the wise men come to the same end after all. Maybe I just need to give up philosophy. But then he considers that to refuse wisdom is to walk in darkness. Better to know why things are going wrong. Better to walk in the light. Next, Solomon looks at toil, all his overachieving work, and he hates it. Toil in Ecclesiastes, it can refer to both work and overwork. Work, it tends to have a positive connotation when we participate in the works of God, when we cooperate in his creation with him, when we do great things with him. Toil, it can mean work, but usually it means pointless overwork. Solomon says that all overwork does is make his days full of pain and frustration. It keeps him up at night, worrying about this, that, and the other thing. And he continues, I'm going to leave everything to my son, who didn't lift a finger for any of it, and that's not good. I expect Solomon had an inkling that his son and crown prince Rehoboam was not going to be up to the job. At this point, let's see, where are we? Verse 18. I hated life. I hated all the toil in which I had toiled under the sun, and I gave my heart up to despair. But Solomon doesn't stay there. We are meant to follow him through an experience of drastic spiritual purgation, which empties us out and makes room for the joy to follow. Do we want to find God? Finding God involves purgation. Kick the meaningless stuff out. It sounds hard. Sometimes it is. But God can make it joyful. And he has us go through it so he can fill us with something better, himself. The saints who are masters of the spiritual life called this the purgative way, an important step on the road to union with God. St. John of the Cross called this the dark night of the senses. We can expect to go through this purgation at least once in life, and afterwards we get to keep half an eye on the things of this world to make sure they stay in their proper place. So, what are our crutches in life? What earthly pleasures are we too attached to? If going without them seems impossible or makes us unhappy, generally, we are too attached to them. What earthly work are we too attached to? What responsibilities keep us up at night, worrying? Have we taken on too much? Are there unnecessary projects we need to say no to so we can enjoy life again? Does any of this resonate with people? Maybe just a little.